Did you see the Relias report that said 50% of DSPs report leaving their jobs because of their supervisor? And if you spend any time at all on LinkedIn, you have likely seen post after post talking about how employees don't leave jobs, they leave bosses. In fact, in the Gallup research report entitled The State of the American Manager, 50% of those polled said that the number one reason they left their job was to get away from their boss. 50%. That means half of Americans are reporting the number one reason that they leave their position is because of their manager. And that really caught my attention, given that I work in a field with incredibly high turnover. Welcome to the Provider Power Moves podcast. I am your host, Sara Sherman. Here, I leverage my 35 years of experience in the field to give you practical steps that create big results in your agency and in your workday. This episode is brought to you by TrueLink. TrueLink partners with hundreds of IDD organizations nationwide to streamline how clients receive and use their funds. Many programs still rely on paper checks, cash, and manual receipts, which creates risk and makes audits difficult. The TrueLink platform replaces that entire process with reloadable Visa debit cards, built-in spending controls, and audit-ready reports. TrueLink keeps clients safer, gives staff back valuable time, and provides clear visibility into every transaction. If your organization is interested in learning more, check the show notes for contact information. So I wanted to pursue this idea of people leaving their managers at just this massive scale further. And here's what I found. Gallup goes on to say that employees that are engaged are much more likely to stay in their jobs. Where does engagement come from? Well, it turns out managers account for at least 70% of the variance employees experience in engagement. 70%. We all understand communication breeds engagement. So it's no surprise with all of this disengagement that there are a lot of complaints about communication. When I work with providers, staff tell me the same thing. Communication is always the number one complaint. Communication or lack of communication, however you choose to look at it. And I work with DSPs, frontline supervisors, upper level management, all the way to CEOs, as well as various people in between in various departments. I hear the same complaint over and over again. And this leads me to believe that Gallup is correct. And it's not just that information isn't getting where it's supposed to go. It's that managers are afraid to speak at all. They don't know what to say. They don't know what they can say. They don't know how to say it. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the chart that describes when managers are uncomfortable giving feedback. And if you're on the podcast, I'll link you to it in the show notes. The chart depicts that 70% of the time, communication in general, staff are unhappy with. And that lines right up with those Gallup numbers. 37% of the time, it's giving direct feedback or criticism. 20% of the time, it's demonstrating vulnerability, identifying, yes, that you, the supervisor, made a mistake and you've learned from it. 20% is an inability to recognize employee achievements. We know the number one and number two things that people want from their jobs are acknowledgement and appreciation. Pay is actually third. Yet here we see 1/5 of managers aren't even comfortable acknowledging and appreciating an employee's work. 20% of them don't feel like they can seriously communicate the company's message. And almost 20% struggle to give clear directions. 16% have a difficult time identifying when a good idea actually came from someone else. And 16% of supervisors report that they struggle to speak face-to-face and would prefer to do communication by email. I'm going to talk about email communication in another podcast. And I don't know about your organization, but I would say that that particular number is probably much lower than reality. Clearly, effective communication is paramount to keeping people on the payroll, so we really have to put in the effort to train supervisors to know how to communicate effectively. So a failure to communicate is certainly a problem. But what do employees really want from their jobs? We know what they're struggling with, but what do they want? Studies show they want the opportunity to grow. So here's another chart. What do employees think is an attractive employer? 52% want opportunities for career progression, and 35% want excellent training and development programs. That's 87% who value and expect training to enhance their job skills and training that supports them to move forward on a career ladder. And when millennials specifically were asked what they valued most at work, the number one topic was training and development. Where does most of this training and development come from in our field? It comes from frontline supervisors. Skilled frontline supervisors don't just fall out of thin air, and they don't tend to fall out of colleges either. Skilled frontline supervisors don't just fall out of thin air, and they don't tend to fall out of colleges either. Frontline supervisors are DSPs who are promoted because they did their DSP work well. In fact, one of the greatest perks about the field of developmental disabilities is that we do promote from within. So why are so many people leaving? The Gallup report tells us that the problem with growth and development today is that it rarely happens. We in the world of developmental disabilities tend to spend a lot of time and effort on DSPs in our quest to keep turnover down. And we do need to continue to do this, but we virtually ignore frontline supervisors in our quest to keep DSP turnover low. And that's a mistake. Supervisors have to have the knowledge to support DSPs, the skills to manage work and workloads, including their own, and they have to have the skills, time, and ability to identify the importance of cultivating the next generation of frontline supervisors. Frontline supervisors are responsible for so much: compliance, morale, person-centered service planning, implementation, documentation, coordination of people, activities, supplies, appointments, vehicles, transportation, and the list just goes on. Everything seems to rest on their shoulders, and they need help to learn how to understand to be good bosses and skilled managers. Investing in supervisor training empowers supervisors to serve as mentors, leaders, and highly effective communicators, which has a huge and positive impact on DSP turnover and delivery of services to individuals. So when you are looking to decrease your DSP turnover, don't forget to look at enhancing the skills of those frontline supervisors. Leave me a comment about the first thing that you are going to do to enhance the skills of your frontline supervisors. And if you are a frontline supervisor, what do you want to learn most? Drop me a comment or shoot me an email at Sara, S-A-R-A, @providerpowermoves.com. Until next time, power on.